Welcome back to Next Gen Console Watch, our show following everything happening with new gen hardware and games. I'm Daemon Hatfield from the Game Scoop podcast, and this week I'm joined by Ryan McCaffrey, host of IGN's Xbox podcast, Podcast Unlocked. Ryan, no pressure, but it's just the two of us this week.
No pressure. Good to see you, Damon.
You as well. And we are, of course, in the middle of spooky season. It's a great time to play some horror games. Great time to sort of round up a bunch of horror games that you can play right now on your PS5 and Xbox Series X, and look ahead to some upcoming horror games that are coming in the not too distant future. And Ryan, we've got a really big one that's finally out today, the day this episode publishes. Alan Wake 2. Turns out the wait was worth it. 9 out of 10 from IGN. Ryan, I'm so pleased. I haven't gotten a chance to play it yet, but I hear such great things. And it's been 13 years since the original Alan Wake was out, so I'm really happy to hear that Remedy apparently still has it in them. Are you excited to dive into Alan Wake this weekend?
Yeah, from the jump. As soon as this thing was announced, I got a pretty good vibe about it, or at least from the first time we saw the proper game, which was earlier this year. It was announced with a trailer back at the Game Awards a year or two ago. But yeah, actually seeing it was like, oh, okay, they're on to something here. And then I had the good fortune of playing it for our final preview about a month ago, and the spider sense tingled on that one. I was like, I think this is going to be really, really good. And I'm a huge fan of Remedy's games. Mm-hmm. And this feels like it's got the chance to be their best game yet. Now, our reviewer, Tristan, as you said, 9 out of 10, loved it, and I'll be curious when I get a chance to sit down and get into the whole thing tonight, when I get to the end, where it feels like it slots in amongst all their very, very excellent games over the years.
Well, what's your personal favorite Remedy game?
For me, I'm a Max Payne 2 guy. Right. The original was fantastic, but I thought 2 kind of took it to the next level in a couple of different ways. The inclusion of Mona Sachs was an awesome part of that game. So I'm very excited for those 2 remakes that they're going to be doing a little down the road. I mean, they're far enough away where we might not even see them on this generation of consoles. But yeah, certainly Remedy has been so good for so long. Our 2019 Game of the Year, Control, of course, from Remedy. And Alan Wake 2 here, waltzing in with a 9 out of 10 in what has been an incredible year of games already.
Yeah, an incredible year for horror games as well. I'm super excited to dive into Alan Wake 2. I hope people will check it out. It's a sequel to a 13-year-old game that was a cult hit in its own right. So I hope people will give this a chance, even if they're not familiar with the Alan Wake franchise. But also out today, Ryan, tell us about this game, Don't Scream. I think the early access version is out the day that this video posts. Runs on Unreal Engine 5, and this is a horror game that requires a microphone. Is that right?
Yeah, so it's a 2-person development team, and one of them reached out to me. I'm the previews guy at IGN. It's my job to manage all coverage for things that haven't come out yet. And they said, hey, we've got this game coming up. We'd love to reveal it with you on Friday the 13th, which of course we just had very recently.
Right.
And they sent me a cut of the trailer, and along with the description of what they were doing. And as you noted, it's Unreal Engine 5, so it looks gorgeous, but it's also styled as it's set in the early 90s, so it's a found footage camcorder game, so kind of Blair Witch-like in that regard. So with that kind of filter over it makes Unreal Engine 5 look even more realistic, because everything is a little kind of not blurry, but through a camcorder, right? So you're in this dark forest, and the hook of the game is it requires your microphone to play, and you have to stay quiet for, I believe, it's 17 minutes. Don't quote me on that. It's it's sort of a small play space, but you're out in the woods. So and time only moves when you move. So you can't just sit there and win. You actually have to be moving, and it's all dynamic. So all the events. So, it's not going to play the same way twice. And I just thought it looks gorgeous. It's such a brilliant hook. And I will confess to you, Damon, I'm actually normally not the biggest horror game fan because I'm a scaredy cat. Like, I don't handle them particularly well. Some of them I do love. But this one, when they sent the trailer to me, which is now on IGN or IGN's YouTube channel, I couldn't make it through the whole thing. I was like, nope, I gotta just fast forward to the end here. So this thing seems like it has a lot of potential. It's one of those games that I feel like not a lot of people know about yet. It was just formally announced. So this is one of those times where I'm really happy working at IGN to get a chance to kind of shine the IGN spotlight on a game that I think is interesting, that I think our audience will find interesting.
Yeah, I definitely think it's interesting. It's Don't Scream seems like a very clever idea, and I take it as a challenge because I do like horror games, and I very rarely actually get scared by them. So
yeah,
I'll have to take the Don't Scream challenge at some point. There is a few other horror games from this year that are out now. Some of them are excellent. We have a couple of remakes. Early this year, we got the Dead Space remake. And then the Resident Evil 4 remake, of course. Dead Space, 2008 Xbox 360, PS3 era game. I loved the original, and this is EA doing something super right. They did everything right on this one. They did not ruin anything from the original. They just took the original game, expanded on it, improved what was already great. So it also arrived without any technical issues, which is remarkable for current gen games this year.
No microtransactions, just no nothing, just
nothing.
Single player, full-blown remake made with love and care by EA Motive. And you're right, they totally knocked it out of the park. And it's, like little by little, EA is trying to rebuild their reputation with core gamers with stuff like Mass Effect Legendary Edition, which BioWare also did a great job, and it wasn't bogged down with any nonsense. So, you give them credit where credit's due. The Dead Space remake turned out fantastic.
Yeah, and they really took advantage of current-gen hardware. The Ishimura, the space stations that you explore, now it's seamlessly explorable, whereas in the original you had to load in different areas, travel by tram. Got much more detailed environments, volumetric lighting that just sort of enhances the experience. So Dead Space Remake is fantastic, and I believe it's available now in PlayStation Plus for no additional cost. And then Resident Evil 4, a remake of an all-time classic. Again, now they made a great game, even better, greatly expanded the environments, changed all the puzzles. So if you remember the solutions to the puzzles in the original game, you're not going to be able to use those here. Better lighting effects, they've added stealth kills. It's a roller coaster horror ride. Not just one of the best horror games of the year, one of the best games of 2023, period. Resident Evil 4 remake, and that has DLC that's out now as well. Then there's a horror fishing game from this year called Dredge. That one's out. We gave it an 8 out of 10. We called it 2023's most unforgettably creepy fishing simulator. Ryan, I know you were involved with the preview of this game for IGN.
Yeah, this really caught our audience's attention, and it's got an awesome art style, awesome premise, and I'm not sure I've ever really seen a game quite like it. It's kind of easy to dismiss as say, well, it kind of blends a lot of different styles. That's like a catch-all, easy thing to say, but it kind of does. But it makes it for a very unique formula where it's creepy, it's weird, it's visually compelling. So, and when it came out, it wasn't just the preview coverage that did well on IGN. It came out and everybody loves it. This game is fantastic, and if you haven't given it a look yet, what better time here than Halloween?
The next game I wanted to point out is a real success story, I think. Dead Island 2. The original was a big hit from the early 2010s, I believe, and there was a year or two where it seemed the Dead Island franchise was going to be really big in gaming. But then it all kind of fizzled out, and there was Dead Island 2, but then, infamously, it was just delayed and stopped and started development over again and switched hands of developers. But it finally came out, and it was good. It was like, by all accounts, it's a good, maybe even a great game. This is something that I haven't played yet, but it's on my list. It's on my back catalog, my backlog, because it has incredible gore effects. And anyone that listens to the Game Scoop podcast knows that I'm a big horror fan. I love juicy, drippy, gory bits in games, and the gore effects in this game are really impressive. Ryan, this is another one that you helped preview, right?
Yeah, it's if that's what you like, Damon, in a video game, you do want to play Dead Island 2. Even if you don't finish it, just enough to see all of the sort of gory kill effects, because it is a first-person melee game, as you know, and you're right. Like this is just a great story. Even setting aside the fact that it's a very good game, as you noted, it changed hands, I believe, at least twice, so at least 3 total developers. There might have been a 4th one in there. I believe Dam Buster is the final studio that got it to the finish line. And I mean, it wasn't quite in development as long as Duke Nukem Forever was, but it turned out to have a happier ending than Duke Nukem Forever did in terms of the quality of the game. It's really fun. It is a good solid. It's probably not going to be on a lot of Game of the Year nominee lists in one of the most incredible years we've seen in the last 10, 15 years in the industry. But yeah, it came out great, and if you haven't played it and you're looking for something goopy, gory, and just mindlessly fun to entertain you here in the spooky season, you could do a lot worse than Dead Island 2.
Okay, the other game that's out now that I wanted to highlight is The Quarry from Supermassive Games, developers of Until Dawn. That one got a 7 out of 10 from IGN. It's the story, it plays on a bunch of, common tropes in horror games. There are 9 camp counselors who get stuck in the woods. They have nothing to do but throw one last big rager. And there's something stalking them in the woods, because of course there is. And then you as the player get to make choices for the characters and determine which of the counselors will be able to survive the night. So that one I think people are having a lot of fun with. And Ryan, we did an IGN first on this one, is that right?
We did, yeah. We had a month of exclusive coverage before this one came out. And yeah, it's from the developers of Until Dawn, same kind of game, obviously. And yeah, it's a not that it's not scary, but it's maybe a little lighter, kind of a teen horror, almost like a I Know What You Did Last Summer in video game form.
Right.
And yeah, like I said, the developers got a great track record, and this one turned out well. I do feel like it kind of got a little overlooked because it is good. It is definitely a good game, and and I mean I love choice-driven Telltale adventure games, and this is certainly it's a deeper game gameplay-wise than the Telltale stuff, which is just entirely story. But I do love the fact that you can play the Quarry a bunch of different ways and make a ton of different choices and you'll have different people alive or dead at the end of your playthrough than I will at the end of mine.
Okay, looking ahead into 2024 at some upcoming horror games, we've got Little Nightmares 3, third in this beloved franchise of, sort of stealth, puzzle, action, horror games. It's coming to both current and last gen, so if you are, still just on a PS4 or Xbox One, you'll be able to play this one. Sometime in 2024, no release date yet, but they're introducing online co-op to the game, which I think should be interesting.
The trailer blew me away for this, Damon. It just visually speaking, like it just visually looked incredible. So that you're reminding me that it's a cross-gen game is actually kind of surprising, given how gorgeous a game it looked in the trailer.
Yeah. That series definitely has its fans, and they're kind of unique, creepy games. If you don't mind like spooky things happening to children, you can check out the Little Nightmares series. And then Ryan, hopefully we finally get Stalker 2 next year. Q1 is the latest official word that comes straight from the developers from Gamescom. They updated their own press kit on their own website with a fact sheet that says Q1 of 2024. Now, could that change? Of course it could, because as we've pointed out on this show and on my show, Podcast Unlocked before, this is being made by Ukrainian game developers who, we don't have to explain why why they will be forgiven if they end up needing more time to finish this game. But the original Stalker is critically acclaimed. It is beloved by the community. And this new one, the second one, it is shown exceptionally well. The 2-3 times we've gotten to see it at Xbox showcases, it's Unreal Engine 5. It's going to look great. It is a survival horror first-person shooter, and this has an extremely good chance of kicking the year off in some real style for Xbox in terms of exclusives. Similarly to how Hi-Fi Rush got Microsoft off to such a great start this year, although, they couldn't really be two opposite kinds of games, Hi-Fi Rush and Stalker 2. But yeah, hey, a AAA first-person shooter to kick off your year of exclusives on Xbox, that's a pretty good way to start the year. Yeah, we've been waiting a long time for that one, understandably so. Then there's actually several Silent Hill projects coming from Konami. I think the most anticipated one is the Silent Hill 2 remake. IGN gave the original a 9 out of 10 way back in the day. We called it one of the eeriest games ever to grace a video system. We also said it is sure to freak the crap out of you. The remake is being developed by Bloober Team, who they've made Layers of Fear, The Medium, and Observer. It's going to be the first installment in the Silent Hill series since Silent Hill Downpour in 2012.
Wow.
Which we actually gave a 4.5 out of 10, so hopefully this one turns out better. We don't have a release date window for this one yet, but it is going to be a timed exclusive for PS5. Hopefully it'll come to Xbox somewhere down the road. Then Ryan, there's also, speaking of these remakes, there's also sort of a remake, reboot, reimagining of Alone in the Dark, the original Alone in the Dark game, one of the first survival horror games from 1992.
Yeah. If you're old like us, Damon, you probably remember at least one of the Alone in the Darks. I certainly do. this is not I feel like this is maybe the second reboot that we've had. Like, that's how old Alone in the Dark is, that it's been rebooted multiple times. But this one's got some star power to it. David Harbour from Stranger Things is the lead actor in this, playing the main character. We haven't seen a ton on it yet, but hopefully the fact that the developer's been fairly quiet about it means that they're just taking their time, plugging away, developing the game in a very, careful way that's not crunching any of the team, and they're just putting the love and care that Alone in the Dark deserves. So I expect, obviously, we're going to see that sometime next year. How soon is still TBD, but yeah, it's one I think is probably not on a lot of people's radars yet. But the involvement of David Harbour is definitely reason for optimism.
That one actually has a release date, Ryan, and we don't have to wait too long. That one's coming January 16th.
See,
PS5, Xbox Series.
That one slipped right by me. Thank you, Damon.
Yeah. PS5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC. And then both that and the Silent Hill 2 remake are adopting the over-the-shoulder camera perspective of the modern Resident Evil games. So remains to be seen certainly if they can match the level of quality that Capcom has been able to with their remakes. There's also Killer Clowns from Outer Space. This is yet another asymmetrical multiplayer game based on an 80s movie franchise, and I'm not trying to be snarky. I'm more just surprised that this has become such a thing after Friday the 13th and Texas Chainsaw Massacre and Ghostbusters. I mean, Killer Clowns is a cult favorite sort of horror comedy movie. I don't know, Ryan, how many more of these are we gonna get? Why hasn't there been a Nightmare on Elm Street one? That one seems obvious.
It could just be the license holder not willing to part with the license is most likely the easiest reason. But you're right. Like, I don't know how many more of these might be hiding in the woodwork somewhere. But if Killer Clowns from Outer Space turns out to be a good game and sells well, then we're probably going to find out what else is left in the woodwork.
Yeah. That one looks like a lot of fun. You can be either the clowns or humans trying to survive the clown invasion. Because the clowns are aliens in this movie. Spoilers.
Yeah, if you haven't seen the movie, it's definitely one to maybe watch with friends. Yeah. Maybe you're having some adult beverages while you do so, and it's a good time.
Watch it for the inventive ways the clowns kill people. That's the reason to watch it. The last one we want to point at is The Invincible. Ryan, what do we know about this one, The Invincible?
Yeah, maybe not I admit I'm maybe cheating a little bit with this one because I don't think it's a horror game per se, but it's definitely going to be creepy and atmospheric. This is I know some people will kind of instantly turn their brain off when I say this, but walking simulator. It is, but it's a first-person game. It's basically like a retro futuristic. It's sort of it's like a 50s sci-fi novel in video game form, and you are alone on a planet where your crew has been, but your crew isn't alive anymore, and you've got to walk around kind of and unfold the story as you go. I played a demo of this. I loved it because it kind of reminded me of if Firewatch was like done as a 50s retro sci-fi kind of game. It's definitely got Firewatch-ish vibes. Obviously, totally different setting and place, but our audience has been really keen on this too. Our coverage has done really, really well on this, so it's gotten our audience's attention. And this is out, Damon, as the wonderful host you are, you've probably got the date in front of you. I think this is out like in a week or two.
It's out soon, I know. I was just trying to find the release date.
It's November
I know it's out
something.
Very soon.
It's November something, I know that.
Yeah, it is November 6th. That's The Invincible, coming very soon. All right, well, there you have it. That's 13 horror games that you can play now and look forward to playing on your PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series consoles. Perfect for spooky season, of which we have a few days left. Now, last week we were talking about 5 games that we felt really delivered on the promise of next-gen gaming. And our poll was, of these 5 games, the 5 games we were talking about, which was the most next-gen to you? And Ryan, the winner was Spider-Man 2. Just out with almost 43% of the results. We know that's a huge hit. We know it's the fastest selling game in 24 hours for PlayStation Studios in its history. So a lot of excitement over that one. But Ryan, I wonder if you're a little bit surprised here that Forza Motorsport came in way at the bottom, less than 5% of the vote.
No, I'm not totally surprised. It's a gorgeous car game, but it goes back to what we were talking about, if not on this show, on mine, about how the Forza kind of has this weird like the best kind of curse imaginable in that it's just really difficult to get excited about that game because it's really, really good every single time. Like it's almost boringly good in terms of like, you know, you're not going to really get hyped for it necessarily because you just know like, oh yeah, that Forza's coming out soon. It's going to be awesome. Great. Like just pen. You don't have to write in pencil with that one. You can just mark it in ink. So yeah. I'm not necessarily surprised at that. I will say, Damon, though, even though Spider-Man 2, I'm about maybe halfway into the campaign, definitely does some of the similar tech stuff. I won't spoil it that Ratchet and Clank does. I would have voted for Ratchet in this because I think it's
interesting.
Not that Spider-Man's lacking in any way. I mean, its scale and scope is much bigger, doing an open world New York City. But I still think, I know I'm like a broken record on this. For me, Ratchet and Clank Rift Apart is still the prettiest video game I've ever seen in my life to this point. I know that's not going to last forever this generation, but it's just stunning in every way. So that would be the game I would have voted for. But I do respect the Spider-Man 2 choice.
Yeah, Ratchet and Clank came in right in the middle. So it was Spider-Man 2, then Cyberpunk, then Ratchet and Clank, then Flight Simulator, then Forza Motorsport. A poll for you to vote on for next episode. How do you like to play scary games? Alone in the dark? With a friend? Or maybe you don't. Maybe horror games just aren't for you. Make sure to vote at IGN.com the day this episode goes live, and we'll share the results with you next episode. And that's going to do it for this edition of Next Gen Console Watch. Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, everyone working behind the scenes in both our LA and San Francisco studios to make this episode possible. My name is Damon. We'll be back next week with more new gen games and news. We'll see you then.